Hi, welcome back to the 48 Ways by Rav Noach Weinberg. We are going to be looking at the 10th chapter here today, the 10th of the 48 Ways, which is Shimush Chachamim, serving the wise. Now, he starts off with a great example here. If you were given tons of money to build a bridge, a very sophisticated bridge that crosses over, let's say, the Hudson River in New York, big bridge crossing over a river, you're given tons of money to do it. The only thing is you're not allowed any engineers to help you. You have to do it by yourself. If this was the task at hand, would you just start, putting poles in the ground and using the knowledge you have maybe from the Boy Scouts or something, tying some things together? No, you wouldn't start guessing with a project like that because it would take you years. In fact, it took thousands of years for people to be able to figure out how to build this kind of sophisticated bridges. So your best bet would be to learn the skill, to learn how to do it, which wouldn't be an easy process to learn building a bridge like that. You'd have to go to, let's say, a good engineering place like MIT College, the famous engineering school, and study engineering and start doing a lot of your own research, talking to people, reading a ton of books, taking notes, and learn how to build this kind of bridge, before getting started. So a lot of times in life, this is what this is a mashal, an example of, is that a lot of times in life we do learn, we go to college to learn a specific skill, we learn things in our profession, but we have the big things in life like our marriage, raising children, spiritual issues that we don't get we try to just jump into it on our own, without learning about it at all. We think, okay, I need to learn how to fix toilets with a course, but for my marriage, I'll just kind of I'll figure it out as I go along the way, and you just can't do that with these, you wouldn't go into to do a surgery, an open heart surgery, without knowing what you're doing. You wouldn't wing it where someone's life is on the line. So we shouldn't just, let's say, wing it with other things in our life that, and that's, I remember when I first went to yeshiva, people were like, well, you're not going to get a degree from the yeshiva. You're not going to get any credit that you can put on a resume, But the thing is, you're working on yourself. You're working on your knowledge of the Jewish people, your history of the Jewish people. You're making yourself just a better person by learning in yeshiva, and you're making an investment for your children and your future, your grandchildren, all your future descendants. You're doing amazing spiritual things for yourself by learning in yeshiva, even though, you can't become a practicing, I guess you could get smicha if you stayed long enough to be a rabbi, but you're not going to come out of there with a PhD in, neuroscience or whatever. So, but we do need to learn about these important things, which is ourself. And so that's the first thing, is we know how we need to learn from people in life, and we need to learn about the important issues in life, not just the obvious ones like in your work. Okay? Then we need to find a good teacher. We need to learn from people. We need to, this is a great line. It says, a fool learns from his own mistakes. A wise man learns from other people's mistakes. We need to see what people are doing and learn from it. Learn from what we do, learn from other people doing, and really realize, if you would have given think about how much more you know today than you did 5-10 years ago. If you could have, you yourself today could give yourself from 5 years ago advice, there'd be so many things you could say, advice for work, advice for family life, and advice for in so many ways. So just thinking like that, think of how much people older than us, like the elderly and people that have so much experience, they know so much more than us too, and so we should really appreciate people's experience and outlook on life from more experience. Even though sometimes a young, fresh perspective is also a great thing as well, but we should really appreciate people's experience that they've gone through in life, and not just think that we know everything, of course. So, um, okay, so we need to find a good teacher. We need to find, it says in the Pirkei Avot, make for yourself a rabbi. Selecha Rav. And that, it doesn't have to be a rabbi. It can be actually just a Talmid Chacham, a very learned person. Many people are Talmidei Chachamim, don't get smicha, but it can also be a rabbi, you know, but a person who is immersed in Torah, and a person that you connect with. And there's a whole, you know, it should be a person who knows your background and your family history. There are classes on this, how to find your Rebbe. It should be a person that you can, you know, have access to. Sometimes you might want the Chaim Kanievsky to be your Shlita, to be your the Gadol Ador, the biggest rabbi around. But good luck trying to get a, you know, phone call in with him more than, you know, once a month, you know. So if that, so you want someone that can be accessible, someone who knows you, maybe someone has a similar background, maybe not, and a person you just connect with and respect, and that you can really use as a mentor in not just the way they teach, but in the way they live their life. So what you can do is you should make a list of questions that are important to you. You know, how can I control my anger? How do I use my full potential? How do I break out of laziness? You know, important questions to you. They don't usually stop and think about. Write them down, and you can ask them to your Rebbe, to this person, you know, who you feel like you can get good answers from, coming from a place of Torah and Torah knowledge as well. So we need to make a good Rebbe for ourselves. And you should stick with them. Try to stick with them for life. Remain loyal. Try to keep a good relationship with them. And the example here, again, in sports, you know, I remember, so in sports, a good coach is one who pushes you to grow. I remember growing up in the States, I had some great phys ed teachers and coaches. You know, it's funny because that's what I ended up doing professionally. But I remember I had some really good ones growing up who were not, you would speak to them and they weren't always just the nicest, warmest person in the world. They were, but they were tough. They were tough guys, and they pushed you. You know, they weren't always going to pat you on the back. They would, when they give you a compliment, you really knew that it was sincere, because a lot of the time they were correcting your form. They were, you know, making you work harder. They were giving you tips on how to improve. They were working you very hard physically, making you do, you know, sprints or more push-ups or things like that. But, you know, they were really trying to just mold you into a good athlete, and even the best one's a good person too. So that's what a good coach does in sports. And a good Rebbe does that for life, you know, does that with all your things in life. When you have a good Rebbe, they'll be honest with you, get you to look at yourself objectively, you know, not just let you meet with them and not change. Like they'll really be honest with you and say, you need to change in this way. And they're not just going to sugarcoat things. You know, that's a good coach, a good Rebbe, and that's what helps us grow. They say King Solomon, Melech Shlomo, was the wisest of people who ever lived, and even he had a mentor. It says this in the Gemara, Masechet Brachot, that Shimi ben Gela, who was his teacher, as long as he was alive, he never made a mistake. But once he died, Solomon erred. He made mistakes. So even the wisest, you can never be too smart for a mentor. You know, even if you're the president, CEO, top of the top, you know, Rosh Yeshiva, you always need a Rebbe, you know. Rav Noach Weinberg, his Rebbe was actually his older brother, who was the Rosh Yeshiva of a yeshiva in Baltimore. And that was Rav Noach Weinberg's Rebbe. So everyone's got to have a mentor or Rebbe, okay? In order to really grow. We should do Shimush Chachamim through serving wise people. We should give kavod to the Talmidei Chachamim by they give them, if you met the president of a foreign country, and he was thirsty, you would of course get up and give him a drink of water or something, like a respectable person. You would give them water, food, things like that. I mean, to any person you should really, but especially, a famous person, wow. So to our Talmidei Chachamim, we should stand for them. We should, show them kavod, honor. And also with tzedakah, you can give them, they say tremendous mitzvah to provide livelihood for Talmid Chacham so they can learn and help and teach and have their basic needs paid for, to feed their family and things like that. So we should watch Talmidei Chachamim, how they do every action in life, not just teaching Torah, but how they are with their wife, how they are with their kids, how they are with people that, acquaintances on the street, their friends, things like that. I remember when I started learning in yeshiva, it was the first time I had teachers, Rebbes. I'd go to their house, for Shabbat, or even sleep there sometimes, and you'd see their kids and their neighborhood and their shul, and you see them in so many different ways that I never saw teachers in that way before in school, where you just see them in the classroom, maybe around the school, maybe on a school trip even, on a deeper level, but to really spend time in your teacher's house, I mean, that's another level. So that's good. You want to, as also the Pirkei Avot says, drink up the dust and soak up the wisdom from the Talmidei Chachamim. And so just to recap here, we have to learn the important skills in our life, not just the skills that are important for our job, also the skills that are important for your job, but also for your marriage, for your Torah learning. Learn how to learn the skills you need for the important things in life. Find a good Rav that you can have as a mentor and he can help you grow. Show respect for Talmidei Chachamim and learn from their every way. So that's it for the 10th of the 40 ways. Next time we'll move on to the 11th, which would be Dikduk Chaverim, examining ideas with friends. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.